The Zephyrian High Command had dismissed humanity with barely a passing glance. Ambassador Veltar had filed his report after visiting Earth. Primitive bipeds, crude kinetic weapons, no quantum manipulation capabilities, threat level, negligible. Now, as Commander Kethra watched her flagship's shields buckle under impossible assault, she wondered how spectacularly wrong that assessment had been. "Status report," she barked, her forearms dancing across holographic controls as the dreadnought Stellar Dominion shuddered under another wave of attacks. "Ma'am, we're reading weapons fire from everywhere," her tactical officer stammered, his usually steady voice cracking. "The asteroids, debris fields, even the cosmic dust itself appears to be weaponized." Kethra's compound eyes narrowed as she studied the battlefield display. 3 hours ago, they had arrived at the Kepler 442 system with a fleet of 200 warships, expecting to crush the small human colony that had dared to establish itself in Zephyrian space. The humans had perhaps a dozen primitive vessels, barely worthy of the name warship by galactic standards. The battle should have lasted minutes. Instead, her fleet was dying by degrees, picked apart by weapons that shouldn't exist, fired from positions that made no tactical sense. Worse yet, her own ships seemed to be turning against each other. Admiral Zekmoth's cruiser just opened fire on the Void Render. Her communications officer reported in disbelief. "That's impossible. Run a diagnostic on our tactical sensors." "I've run it 6 times, Commander. The readings are accurate." "Our own ships are—" The officer's words were cut short as his console exploded in a shower of sparks. Kethra watched in horror as the metal fragments from the explosion seemed to hover in midair for a moment, before reshaping themselves into tiny, gleaming spheres that rolled across the deck toward other control stations. "All crew, fall back to emergency stations," she commanded. But even as she spoke, she could see similar metallic formations spreading throughout the bridge like liquid mercury with malevolent purpose. On the main display, she watched the human fleet, if it could still be called that. The dozen vessels she had initially identified had somehow become hundreds, then thousands. But that wasn't quite right, she realized with growing dread. The ships weren't multiplying. They were transforming, flowing like liquid metal, constantly reconfiguring themselves. A communication request chimed through the chaos. Against her better judgment, Kethra accepted it. The holographic display resolved into the image of a human, unremarkable by most galactic standards. Middle-aged, with graying hair and tired eyes behind primitive optical corrective lenses. He wore what appeared to be a simple naval uniform. "Commander Kethra," the human said with polite formality. "Admiral James Chen of the Terran Colonial Defense Force. I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding." "Surrender now." "Human and perhaps—" "Oh no, I think you misunderstand," Chen interrupted gently. "I'm not calling to negotiate our surrender. I'm calling to accept yours." Kethra's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter if the situation weren't so dire. "You face the might of the Zephyrian Empire, Admiral. Your primitive technology—" "Primitive." Chen tilted his head thoughtfully. "Yes, I suppose we are by your standards. No faster-than-light communication, no energy weapons, no artificial gravity, just good old-fashioned human engineering." He paused. "Tell me, Commander, what do you know about nanotechnology?" As if summoned by his words, Kethra felt something crawl up her leg. Looking down, she saw that her armor was dissolving, the advanced composite materials breaking down into component molecules before reforming into tiny machines that skittered across her carapace like metallic insects. "Impossible," she breathed. "Our intelligence reports showed no advanced manufacturing capabilities." "That's because you were looking for the wrong thing," Chen explained patiently. "You were looking for big factories, massive industrial complexes. But humans learned long ago that sometimes the smallest solutions are the most effective." He gestured, and Kethra's tactical display suddenly showed her the truth. The human ships weren't ships at all, not anymore. They were swarms. Trillions upon trillions of microscopic machines, each no larger than a virus, working in perfect coordination. They had infiltrated every Zephyrian vessel the moment the battle began, traveling through space on solar winds, hiding in electromagnetic fields, disguising themselves as cosmic radiation. "You see, Commander, while other species were perfecting energy shields and quantum torpedoes, humans were perfecting something much more fundamental, the ability to manipulate matter at the atomic level. Every asteroid in this system, every piece of space debris, Every molecule of interplanetary gas, it's all been converted. Kethra watched in fascination and terror as her own fleet dissolved and reformed around her. Ships that had served the Zephyrian Empire for centuries were being deconstructed and rebuilt in real time, their hulls flowing like water as billions of nanomachines rewrote their fundamental structure. Your weapons, your shields, your armor, they're all made of atoms, Chen continued conversationally. And atoms, as it turns out, are quite willing to be rearranged with the proper encouragement. This is impossible, Kethra protested, even as she watched her own command throne begin to shift and change beneath her. The computational requirements alone. But that's the beautiful thing about evolution, Chen smiled. We didn't need to build a central computer to control all of this. We built something much more elegant, self-organizing systems. Each nanomachine contains just enough intelligence to work with its neighbors. Emergence, we call it, the whole becoming greater than the sum of its parts. Around them, the battle, if it could still be called that, was reaching its conclusion. The Zephyrian fleet hung in space, transformed into geometric patterns that served no military purpose but possessed an undeniable aesthetic beauty. Her crew stood unharmed but surrounded by machines that could unmake them at the molecular level with a thought. So what happens now? Kethra asked, her voice barely a whisper. Chen's expression softened. Now, Commander, we talk. Your government made an error in judgment, but that doesn't mean this has to end in bloodshed. We'll repair your ships, return your crew unharmed, and send you home with a message. What message? That humanity may be primitive by galactic standards, but we've learned to work with what we have. And what we have, Commander, is 4 billion years of evolutionary experience in solving problems. Chen leaned forward slightly. We'd prefer to be your friends, but if you insist on being our enemies, well... He gestured to the transformed fleet around them. I think you can see how that story ends. As the nanomachines began the process of restoring her ship to its original configuration, improved, she noticed with professional admiration, Kethra found herself reconsidering humanity's place in the galactic hierarchy. Perhaps it was time to update their threat assessment. The galaxy had underestimated humanity's potential once. Looking around at the impossible battlefield that had been rewritten at the molecular level, Kethra doubted anyone would make that mistake again. In the depths of space, countless microscopic machines continued their work, turning the vacuum of space itself into humanity's workshop. The age of human expansion had begun, one atom at a time.